Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Aquarius Rising Africa. Hope you're all doing well. Wonderful to see you all in the chats, and Joanne and the girl in the gong, and Lisa D and Jojo, everybody. Hello. And of course, to the lovely Jessica. How are you, honey? Good to see
Hi.
you again.
Thank you. It's always good to see you too. Yes, I actually spent the last week not feeling well. I was a little under the weather, but I'm feeling so much better today. I feel good.
Yeah,
So
well, I watched a few of your shows, and I know you, Shem. The one day in particular, your voice was, I felt so bad for you, because it really sounded like your voice was battling. I know those days. It probably sounds worse than what it feels, though. But I'm glad that you came because, yeah, it's good to see you. I did offer you a night off or a day off, right?
you did.
Let's just be clear. I'm not slave driving.
You did. You did. But you know what? I thought this is such an important topic today, and I thought this would be really great to get the word out to as many people as we can about what's going on with people being attacked and going missing. That's one of my missions is to kind of uncover and I don't want to say expose, but I guess it is exposing and get to the bottom of where a lot of these missing people are going around, especially the United States where I live, but all over the place,
Yeah.
especially in like national parks and stuff. So,
But it's so interesting what you guys are doing, and I mean, as I've said so often on the show, I've always known this stuff exists, right? It's just something I've known in me. And also, as a kid, being able to see beyond the physical, I always could see beyond. So it's no shock, if I want to put it that way, that these things exist. And it's actually quite liberating, I want to say, in a way, for to be seeing them, or people to be seeing them, because it kind of backs up what we've been thinking and feeling and perceiving for all these years, right?
mhm.
So I think it's so important because speaking to people like yourself, and obviously the other cryptid people, you've got some great guests on your show as well. um, you know and seeing what they coming across, the stuff that you see. I mean, you go cryptid hunting, Bigfoot hunting quite a bit. So you seeing all these things, and now of course we're hearing about the Dogmen let me try that again. No, guys, I'm not drunk. Dogmen attacks on the homeless and those that are illegally crossing the border, right? I mean, that is, but like, why on them? Because to me, it just feels like those would be the most vulnerable people that are actually being attacked, and illegal immigrants, right? Or illegal border crossers. I mean, that seems to me that someone has put a target on those people, for them to be targeted like that. I mean, that just for me would be why that homeless. I can understand that right now. These guys want to clear up, in my opinion, clear up obviously the lower income group, if that makes sense, right? That's kind of
Mhm.
like what they're doing. If we're looking at all these agendas, there's never just one agenda in place. There's plenty of agendas in place all at the same time.
Mhm. Oh yeah. Well, you said the word that makes the most sense, and that's vulnerable. Vulnerable. They're vulnerable. Um, when it comes to dogman attacks, now dogman, I know for your audience may not be very familiar with dogman. It's just like it looks very similar to a werewolf. Okay, bipedal wolf, basically, is what they look like. Sometimes they can be very big, very tall. 7 feet is around the average height for dogman that we've had encounters with. I personally have never had a dogman encounter. We do get reports of them at my research areas. I have gone on a literal dogman hunt recently out in Alabama, which is here in the southeastern United States. They exist. I have interviewed too many people that have seen them and have had experience with them, who have grown up with them on their property. People who I trust, people who I research with, have had encounters with them. Just because I have not had an encounter doesn't mean they don't exist. I 100% believe they do.
No, I 100% believe they do as well. You know, we just have to be looking at, I mean, I do believe that a certain amount of them are natural born that way. They're actually born that way. And then I do believe there's a large amount as well that have been, what do you call it,
Created.
humanized, or because I believe that with a lot of these things, you know, this is just what I'm feeling and what I'm picking up, because obviously the more we're looking into these things, I mean, my little feelers are going out very much. And I believe definitely that a lot of what they're creating in these labs, like maybe the Dogmen, the werewolves, those I don't want to say I'm going to say monster created creatures that they make, because humans don't do that, in my opinion. They're using human parts or humans to do that. Now, I know we spoke about like some of the soldiers with the goat man, I think it was, that they were using, you know, like dead soldiers and stuff like that. Honestly, that would not surprise me. Hybrids, that's right. That would not surprise me if they're doing the same with these guys, and especially the soldiers, because if you think about the military, I mean, those military guys are trained to the nth degree, right? So in their blood, in their DNA, they just combat, they just go, go, go. I mean, they're born, they trained to be super aggressive. So they've already got that aggressive gene in them. And it wouldn't surprise me if they're already mutating that to become something even more horrific. Seriously, I think there's nothing more. I don't think there's anything with these guys that is too depraved. I think they break any law and any rule they can.
Oh yeah, and they've been doing it for well over 100 years here in the United States that we know of.
Masters of it.
Yes, that's what we know of. They have to be really good at it by now, in my opinion. Because you and I did talk about the billywhack monster out of Southern California. That is so wild that we just discussed last time I was here. And that was, it looked like a goat man. It was reported around that area in Southern California, not too far from where we're going to be talking about today with these alleged dogman attacks on the homeless populations out there in San Bernardino County, not too far outside of LA, Los Angeles. There was a lab underneath a dairy there, and where they were actually working on, a scientist was working on human hybrid animal experiments to make super soldiers. And it's so wild because recently, over the past couple of years, I have researched and looked into something called the cryptid or dogman breeding program that we have here in the United States, allegedly. I do believe that does exist. I say allegedly for YouTube purposes. Okay. But it's alleged or alleged that we have a program where they are creating, and I'm not going to say creating in a lab, I'm going to say breeding, because they call it the breeding program, where they have had at least one whistleblower came out talking about this. He said that this program has been going on since the 1950s here in the United States, where they are doing breeding programs where they are breeding dogmen, werewolves, and Sasquatch. Now, I think that it's totally possible. I think it's probably even more advanced than what we're told and what people assume or what the whistleblower says. I think it's far beyond our comprehension, honestly, what all's going on. But nonetheless, there are interesting programs. I had done, I do a remote viewing, and I was given a target of, it turned out to be 2 mauling deaths of people in Eastern Tennessee. Now, if you guys are familiar with the Southern United States, this is actually the exact area where a hurricane just hit this weekend on Friday. I was actually in the line of that storm as well, and a lot of my friends still don't have power today. All towns were wiped out completely with flooding. It's been a disaster over here. So my thoughts and prayers go out to everybody who's been affected by that. Our friend Dennis Carroll, that I refer to quite a bit, he still does not have power. He hasn't had power since Friday. A lot of good friends are affected by that. But one of the areas is called Cobb County. And there were 2 cases that I was given blind targets to dive into what really attacked those 2 people. They both were on the same road within 2 months of each other. They both were attacked by what we were told were packs of wild dogs. And a man named Tony Aarons and a woman named Amber Miller. Of course, the news kind of spun it to where, these both people had addictions, like drinking problems or drug addicts. They kind of, and that's no reason to, no excuse as to like, oh, they got mauled to death by these dogs because they were, let's just say character assassination was kind of happening in the news on both of these people. But they were both attacked, both lost their lives. And Amber lived for about a week, I believe, after she was found with a large percentage of her flesh was ripped off of her body. And I know this is not comfortable to talk about, but she lived, and it was odd because a judge put the entire hospital, all the staff, the legal team, her family, everybody under a gag order where they couldn't talk about what happened to her.
You see, this for me immediately is, why? Surely they would be doing it, in my opinion, for one of 2 reasons. Because A, they really don't want to scare the public and they really don't know what's going on. And of course, we understand human beings can go into this mob mentality and just start going crazy. I get that. So I can understand there would be that need to avoid that. Or they really just trying to play silly buggers and hiding what is truly going on. And, in my opinion as well, a lot of this stuff is the government experimenting. They've experimented on these creatures for a long time. And it wouldn't surprise me if they're actually releasing some of them at this point. It wouldn't surprise me if it was like a deliberate release. You know what I'm saying? It's not like they're just running around free. They've come out of somewhere. And to me, it's almost like, let's go and see what happens now. And then more and more, they'll start like slow, and then, it sort of intensifies more. And that for me is what I feel is going on. These creatures have come from somewhere. Now, again, the question remains always, I guess, is, are they authentically what they appear to be, whatever we don't understand, or are they man-made or monster-made?
Oh, you're going to love what I say next, okay? Because you're right on target. You're right on target with that. Because when I was given both of those targets, they're blind targets, and both of them, it was interesting because I was getting similar data for both targets, and they were both blind. So I didn't know what they were. But I kept seeing something that I could not describe, attacking someone in each target. And I just wrote down the word, I wrote zombie bear.
Wow.
And I thought, man, that was, I wrote down zombie bear for both targets. And I was really confused. And when I found out what the target was, I actually was asked to do that by someone in the Dogman community. I was given those targets by somebody. And we were actually planning to do a show on that and to discuss the data, because this is a big topic. People were actually concerned and worried. People were very suspicious as to whether a pack of wild dogs, you don't see a whole lot of packs, many packs of wild dogs running around attacking people very often. I've never, I've seen a pack of dogs, but not like that.
That's not normal. I actually wanted to ask you as well, from what you've experienced and what you've perhaps seen, is it single attacks that are occurring, or are these things actually hunting in packs? Because again, for me, it would seem that a dog by nature is a pack animal, so it's going to migrate towards being a pack, right? Hunting in packs. Or are they that different? You know what I mean?
Well, you would think they'd be in packs, but the majority of reports we get, they're single.
Right.
Single sightings, single, but sometimes there are multiples, but not a huge pack, not being seen at least. So I actually did go public with some of the data, because when we were discussing it on air, I said, I'm my heart goes out to the families, because I'm sure they're wanting answers with a lot of this stuff too. But I'm almost hesitant to talk about the details of some of the data publicly, because it's, first of all, it's heartbreaking, when you lose a loved one like that. But I went ahead and just said it.
I mean, can you imagine? I mean, anyone who's lost someone close to them, whether it's been in a car accident or to a disease or whatever it might be, right? It's a hell of a thing to lose someone close to you like that. And especially if someone has been murdered or raped or whatever, can you imagine this happening to your husband or your wife? Where this is what I'm saying. It's almost like to send thousands of these things out at the same time would get us to declare war. We would be declaring war, right? Humanity would be declaring war. And I don't think that they can allow that. So they're doing it. It's like, that analogy, put the frog in the pot or whatever, and you just turn it up bit by bit. Eventually it's going to kind of like, when it gets too hot, it's going to jump out kind of thing. To me, that's what I feel is going on a lot here, is that they're releasing these things, whether it's through portals or whether it's through underground tunnels or whatever. They've got all sorts of technology. They do it. But I think this is organized. I don't know. What's your take, Jess?
Okay, so I went public, and I said, I hate to say this. I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but I wrote down zombie bear for both both of the cases. I said, I did not see a pack of dogs. There were not multiple beings that attacked the people. It was one large animal attacked each person that I had remote viewed. And I said, the only thing I could describe it as is a zombie bear. And I know I got a little backlash. People are like, oh, zombie bear, that's weird, well, fast forward a month or two, and a sweet lady named Kelly, who's a viewer and a sweet lady, sent me a private email. She said, Jessica, this could explain the zombie bear. And I clicked on it, and it was actually Israeli news on YouTube. It was a video, like a news segment they had done, alerting the public that a man had gone with a 3-letter agency, military actually, I believe, had gone in front of Congress and asked for funding to be changed for a program to be stopped, that they had been doing some kind of program, a super soldier program is basically what he called it. But he said that it had gotten out of control, and they needed to, I think they were eliminating the assets. And it turns out this program entailed injecting DNA of bears, wolves, and something else. I can't remember, but bears and wolves were the two main ones that I can remember. They were injecting DNA of those animals, or is the way they presented it to the public, into soldiers, special forces, army rangers and stuff, like making them into super soldiers. Well, what they had done was they were basically making what turned out to, it sounded like werewolves or something. But they were dropping pairs of them off all over the world, female and male. And guess where they had dropped off males, one male and one female? East Tennessee, in that same area. And they said, according to this report, the assets had gotten out of control. They had lost their humanity, something to where they needed to be eliminated, which means they all needed to be put down. And so I still have that article. It's still online. People ask me about it pretty often, and I will send them the link to that. But it's a thing. And pictures started popping up. They said there's actually a picture of one of these assets that was dead, unalived, in Brazil. and it looked like it kind of had like human legs and but hair all over its body, and it looked kind of like a
Yes.
dog. Yeah.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. And but then again, if you're thinking about the bear DNA and the wolf DNA, right? That schmecks of this berserker and the Norse type. I don't want to say technology or biology, right? Because that's very Norse, the wolves and the bears. So to me, I mean, when we look at the berserkers, they are really guys that are taking on the spirit of the bear and do this sort of trance-like fighting, right?
Yeah. And much like the Cheyenne dog soldiers as well, the Cheyenne Dogmen, that which I
Yes.
just covered this past week on my channel. And I would love to talk to Caleb Jade about that sometime.
Yeah. We'll have him. We'll have him. He'll be back one of these days. He's just taking some downtime right now. So that's why. But I've got to tell you, interesting, very, very interesting. Talking about that there. Now, I've got to be very careful what I say here, because I know someone also who's a Viking, Swede, right? Part of the 3-letter agencies, has been doing dirty work in Africa for many years. Very charming, all of these things, right? And what he did, and what he got involved with the African royal families. So he was kind of like the go-between for the African royal families and the stinkers, right? So they would use him to usurp resources from the African royal families. So he became almost like part of the royal families type thing. And he was initiated with the spirit of the leopard. So he, well, hello, I communicate with animals. Right there, I knew what was going on. So I said, hello, leopard, come talk to mama. So, but seriously, so that's what they do here. It's like interesting because with there's a lot of that, but that is a very, that's a royal, and then you get to keep the leopard pelt because there's got to be a hunt that goes with that. And either they've got to hunt the leopard themselves, or the warriors will hunt the leopard, but then there's a big ceremony where they then get initiated. And I want to tell you, they take on those cat-like qualities. That dude, and I didn't know the things I know now, but he would like reappear out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like reappear out of nowhere. Wow. So to me, it would make sense that he would be either doing this tunnel traveling or dimension traveling, and obviously with the stealth of a cat, because with the bush wars, remember they were in the bush wars here, so they would use the animals then. I think that would be relevant to the areas maybe, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Okay, I have so many things going through my mind right now because I talk a lot about skinwalkers. Okay, I'm not going to say that word a whole lot today. I usually say S-walker because you're not supposed to say it so many times. But the Native Americans here have now this is a very dark practice, very dark. It uses dark magic. You have to do horrible things, unalive your people you love, and through black magic and stuff, you can become, you wear the pelt of the animal that you want to become. Sounds similar to what you're talking about there, but you obtain supernatural powers. Okay. And I was just thinking, wow, with this super soldier program that our government here in the United States has been using and working on, allegedly. Okay. We know that there are high level Satanists in our military. There just are. I've been told that, and it's no secret. A lot of black magic. I mean, we even have Caleb talking about his time in the military where they use a lot of magic. Why wouldn't they have skinwalkers in the military and use that with our super soldier program.
But then, for those of you who've been listening to my interviews with Jessie over the years, we'll firstly talk about the military. Her two main abusers were John Brennan, who I do believe was head of the FBI, and Michael Aquino, who was head of CIA. So those would be the two right there. And she talks about the battles they have and the chief of police and head of this and head of that. But then also we're talking about the animals, the way they would actually use the animals. Now, I mean, I don't know if you guys have listened to that, but I'll tell you, the first time I heard about it, I was so rattled. I was in tears. I just had to completely compose myself. So it's not just what they do with these, but like they'll take, for example, chimpanzees and gorillas. Now, remember, these things are like 99% human DNA. Now they take them into the system, and they would then insert a human baby into the mother gorilla. So the mother gorilla grows this baby inside of her, and then she gives birth to this baby, right? Thinking it's her baby. Then the father knows this ain't no baby of mine, right? And then the father will kill that baby. And what they do is they actually watch from the sidelines as this fight goes on, and then they watch how the mother goes into depression type thing, and how they use these kids, these animals in the system, to actually do horrific things to the kids. I'm not even going to go there anymore, but also in terms of the animal armies, like the gorillas, the chimps. That's why Ellen DeGeneres has a zoo in Rwanda, here in Africa, and I did a bit of a deep dive into that not too long ago. You look at all the patrons of her organization, every one of them, all 40, there were about 40, are zoos in America, zoos. Really? And then what they do is they traffic our animals to the zoos, to America, and then they use them in the system like that as well. So animals are used, and it wouldn't surprise me, like especially with the animal armies, like the ape, or like Planet of the Apes, is not really fiction, right?
No, I mean, if there are dogmen and Sasquatch running around and stuff, I mean, and werewolves, why wouldn't there be an army of ape men?
Yeah, women. They do that. Absolutely, they do that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, well, I just think that news article really opened me up to with the Israeli news and the gentleman that went before Congress to ask for the funding to be changed for that super soldier program that they have. I mean, that was right there in the public's. That's right there in our faces. The guy went before Congress to go ask for this, and they weren't covering it up, but I don't think they were saying the full truth right there in front of everyone. But they have to let us know what they're doing, right? So
yeah, absolutely, they do all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I think they're clearing their karma by doing that. Well, good luck to them. Yeah. That's for sure.
Yeah. Wow. So, but we were okay. So that was establishing that we are having an issue with people being mauled to death, being attacked by some kind of creature that's not human. It's not any kind of animal that we have come across yet that we know of. And there's something fishy going on. And then some point last year, I met a gentleman named Nick Sylvester. Okay, I love Nick to death. He's really big in the truther movement. I think all his channels on YouTube were taken down at some point. And so he's on Rumble now on a show called The Bridge with Nick and Dylan. But Nick comes on my show occasionally, and he came on to talk about the Dogman breeding program. He had a lot of information on that. He gets a lot of inside information too. So that's why I really like talking to him, bringing him on. But we actually ended up talking even more about the issue with people who were crossing the border here in the United States, let's just say undocumented people. who were crossing the border at the southern border, coming in from Mexico. And border patrol agents were actually reporting that they were watching as people would come across the border and get attacked, mauled to death by dogmen. There was actually one incident that he told us about where the border patrol agents that reported it died mysterious deaths right after that happened. And there was one person who survived. One of the guys that was an agent who had reported it or went public. He had actually gone on vacation to go see his family in Mexico, and found out that his two partners that he worked with had been unalived. They died mysteriously, and so he never came back to the U.S. after that.
So do you think that would be someone unaliving them, or do you think that would be some type of magic that was used to unalive them, just because they saw it? You know, maybe they weren't supposed to see it. Maybe, you know, could be that kind of thing. So do you think it was a deliberate culling of humans after that, or just a magical thing that occurred?
Well, in my opinion, it's a little fishy in regard to the border patrol agents. If this story is true, I was told it is. I believe that they were unalived. I think,
right,
to keep the story quiet. I mean, it's just a big rabbit hole. Okay, this is all a huge rabbit hole to go down. But the story went, the account went that they were actually watching through their night vision and their thermals, which are like night vision devices, basically, where you can detect heat signatures. And they were watching as a group. I was told that they were in a single file line, a group of, like a family, was walking through the area, through the environment, and in a bipedal wolf, basically. I don't know if they said one or two came out and just tore them all to shreds, ripped them limb from limb, and it was horrific. It was horrific. But then we got on the conversation also about dogmen working for the cartels as well. You know, I've actually been told that there are security detail for the rich, the elite, that do involve werewolves and dogmen.
Well, those are from, I also remember what Jesse was saying right in the beginning, the protectors in the system. So the protectors of, I know, the mothers of darkness and stuff that was happening there, and I'm not sure how else that works, but they were all given protectors, and I do believe those guys are wolves because they're referred to as the wolves in the system, the wolves. So I would imagine that they would be the ones that have taken a dose of medicine and can change into these things at will, or maybe not at will, but whenever that is. Wow. Yeah, that's insane.
That would be like a werewolf, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in a very strange world, and if people only knew, the general public only knew what's really going on around us all, it's pretty terrifying. But
sure.
But that's okay. So that's kind of how it started out, with establishing that we are having people being attacked. I mean, we've had several unspecified animal attacks. Let's just say, there's actually even a famous case out of the Land Between the Lakes. It's like a national park up in Kentucky and Tennessee here. And it's also in the South where I live, close to where I live, where a family was allegedly unalived by a couple. They say one, but I think it was two, because I had been given this as a remote viewing target as well. And they were ripped to shreds as well. By what looks like a dogman type creature, two of them, in my opinion, according to the data. But there are underground facilities at all of our national parks that I've remote viewed for the most part. I'm not looking for underground facilities when I'm remote viewing, but I don't see, these are blind targets, and I'm picking up on labs.
You can't help but go there.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to say this earlier on about George Bush Sr., and that again was information that I got from Jesse a while back, that George Bush Sr., apparently his nickname was Timber the
Wolf.
Wolf or something. Yeah, because he was apparently renowned for shape-shifting into a wolf and then being gruesome with little boys.
Yeah. That's
That's,
terrible.
yeah.
It's
So
terrible.
that's crazy. So it is, I mean, obviously the highest level of government, and of course their owner they're looking after themselves, right? So of course they're going to
Mhm.
have their protectors and stuff, and again, and that's why it's the secret brotherhood, right? Because they've got to
Mhm.
keep the secrets. So
Yeah.
anything like this is the cost is your life, basically.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, there's a really interesting lecture that I refer to occasionally, and it was a man named Bill Schnoebelen, I think, with the Prophecy Club. You can find this on YouTube, where he's giving a lecture where he's a rabbi today, I believe, but before that he did a little bit of everything, and he did get into the higher levels of the Brotherhood of Satan. And he talks about how when you reach a certain level, you can become a werewolf or a vampire. He became a vampire, okay, and but he talked about encountering people who had turned, werewolves, of men. It's mostly men, is what he was referring to. But men, he gave a couple of different accounts of him knowing of and seeing with his own eyes people who had transformed. Um, he said that they actually would guard the people that that turned into werewolves would actually transform and protect, like be the guard dogs basically for the rituals in the landfills and the trash
Yes.
yard, all these dirty
Yes,
places where they would do these nasty rituals. And at
yes,
times, if anybody would walk up on them, the werewolves would unalive them. And that happened to a child that was on his bicycle one evening,
yes,
according to him.
yes. Absolutely, I've heard that as well. So I'm interested. I know with the werewolves that what's I can never say it, can I can say it, but I'm not supposed to say it. Lycanthropy, right?
That's good. You said it.
Okay. So if he became a vampire, what was his fetish then? Oh, Joanne, look at you, Joanne. Thank you
Oh,
so
Joanne,
much.
that's so
Mm.
nice.
So
Very
what
nice.
was his fetish? What was his fetish? I mean, if they become vampires, what do they have to do? I mean, Johnny Depp apparently is a vampire, and
Mhm.
Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage, I always had a bit of a crush on in my younger years, uh, but not so much anymore, no. But I
Yeah.
mean, so what do the vampires do? I mean, what's their thing?
Oh, it was the way he described it was very sexual in nature. Very. Uh, a lot of sex, okay, and
Mm.
there was a bloodlust about it as well, because when
Right.
he said that they would have, I hate to say it, but like group sex and stuff, and they would bite each other, and he would bite the women and eat their blood, I guess, and it was like an amphetamine. Okay, it would get them high. Like the
Right.
blood changes. It's almost like the chemical makeup changes or something. I'm not exactly sure
Yeah.
how that works, but they would do that to get high. Uh,
Wow. But again, like what Jesse was saying as well, is that the blood banks, the hospital blood banks would be
mhm,
that's where they would get their feed from as well. And
yeah,
oftentimes it's like these girls, these little groupies, right, would go off with these rock bands and whatever, and they literally tap their blood. So they don't necessarily, like we see in the movies. That's why I ask, is it really these jaws that bite you in the neck and suck your blood, or is that more the movie thing? Because
mhm,
what I've heard, it's more they don't necessarily do that. But also you get the energy vampires, and again, that's the whole thing, because obviously your energy, especially if you're in fear or whatever the case might be, emits certain all sorts of things, right?
mhm,
And these things like suck off it as well. So there's that. um, parasites, the parasites, anything parasitic really, right, is being a vampire. So it would really all just fall under the parasite umbrella, the way I would see it.
Yeah. It's not a lifestyle I'm interested in. Okay. I think it would be cool to be a werewolf, I guess, but not really. I'm fascinated by it all, but I'm cool being, Jessica Jones. That's just a normal, mom.
Yeah, just a normal mom, Cryptid Huntress, taking your child out to hunt the
Yeah.
Bigfoot or the big feet. Yeah, cool mama.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Mama bear.
Yeah. Oh man. I actually took. Oh, by the way, I took Bryce Bigfooting the other day. So we
I
did
saw
go.
pictures of you two
Yeah.
gallivanting around. You just happy, you just lucky you haven't found that portal yet. Because when I'm finding it, I'm coming, right? And if I get lost along the way, you are my remote viewer. So tell me,
Okay.
what did you do?
I'll come find you. I'll come find you. Yeah, no, we went to the grave of Mahalie Lancaster, who actually she and I both had a common bond of having a connection with this woman who was she passed away in the 1950s, I believe, 55. She was born in the 1800s, but she was known as the Oracle of the Ages, and people travel from all over the world to come get their fortunes told by Miss Mahalie. And it's wild because, and she was actually, okay, she was a very intelligent woman. She was the first woman lawyer in Georgia. She was a teacher. She was in a band. She was a philanthropist, a suffragette, like for women's rights and stuff. But she lived in a cabin out in the woods here in Georgia, in an area that I researched for Bigfoot, not too far from all of that, in a place called the Troop Herd Corridor. And so she's there. And of course, we went to go visit her grave, because you go and leave $1 and a dime. And that's what she used to ask for when people would pay her for a reading, basically. But she was really good at what she did, by the way. She was a fantastic oracle. She was the real deal. And it was even featured on movies and all sorts of stuff. But anyways, we went there, and then I took Bryce we went to go Bigfooting for just a little bit. So we had my son, we had our boyfriend was with us too. And we just had a good time. Yeah. We wish you had been there.
Yeah, and I wish that too as well. That's why I say, find me that portal. I'm coming.
We'll get
I'm
a portal.
coming. I'll be
We'll open our own portal.
I'll be all scratched and full of bumps and bruises by the time I arrive there. But hey, I'll be.
Oh my gosh. We'll get you here on stage. We'll get you how about this? We'll get you a Dogman security team to come pick you up at that portal. Okay.
I like it. I like those Dogmen. I like the idea of the Dogman team.
I'm still waiting for mine. I want a werewolf security detail. That's really what I want. Okay. I will have that one. I want to be a time traveling cryptid hunter who has a werewolf security detail. Okay. That's my goal in life.
A werewolf security.
Yes.
As long as they must just look away from me. They must not look in my direction. I don't want to see those teeth.
Nobody would mess with me then.
Yeah, show them to those you should be showing them to.
I know. I probably wouldn't have any friends if I had that. Everybody'd stay away from me.
We did have the werewolves, so that's cool. They'll be like growling a lot. I'm not sure if they can talk though, but you'll hear a lot of growling.
They can talk.
Growling and howling.
From what I've been told, you can have a full conversation with the werewolf because they're actually like human. They're kind of they've got humanistic traits and stuff to them. I mean, it depends on.
Why I'm sure they've got human DNA. They definitely got human DNA. There's like half there. Something is not right with that lot. There's definitely something going on there. It's like definitely. No, it's hard. There's definitely some kind of a funny transition happening there. That's for sure. Wow.
Yeah. Ooh, I just looked at the timer. It said 4444. I love it when that happens.
Oh wow! Yes. It's 4444 now. Yeah, 44444.
I just
we just had
4444. Yeah. Okay. So. Oh my gosh. So we go from the Dogman breeding program, the people at the border allegedly getting mauled to death by dogmen, potentially even working with the cartels, these dogmen, as security. We hear about the elites and the ultra rich having cryptid, let's just say, details, which like security detail, like what I was saying, that I wouldn't mind having a werewolf, and I'm kidding, by the way, I'm kidding, but a werewolf security team, a Dogman security team, to, you know, what we're having reports of now coming out of California. And actually, it's not just California, it's all over the country here in the US. People have been reporting seeing homeless people attacked and unalived by dogmen. And I've gotten cases out of, there's a case out of St. Louis, I believe, which is in the middle of the country in Missouri. There's a case of homeless people being attacked by dogmen. But now we're getting reports out of California, which is really interesting because my friend, my good friend, his name, we call him Brown Dwarf. He came on my show.
Yeah, I saw your show the other night. It was a cool show.
Yeah, he's a wonderful person. You know, he and I both are Bigfoot field researchers. So we go out in the field. We've traditionally, both of us are out there looking for Bigfoot, but he and I both know that we come across other things that aren't just Bigfoot, Sasquatch. You know, we're potentially could come across anything out there in those deep woods. And what's really popular, I don't think he has had a dogman encounter himself yet either. Neither he nor I have had personal encounters that we know of with dogmen. But, you know, people know him. He's got his ear to the streets. He lives in Los Angeles right now, and he helps his brother run their skateboard shop. They have a skate shop out of Los Angeles, and they have, I think people that go there know that he is a Bigfoot researcher and stuff, and people open up to him about stuff. And a guy came into his shop, one of their customers came in, who I think he's like a blue collar worker. He works doing welding or something. And sometimes he'll go out, and and I think Brown said that he is in transition. So he'll sleep in his truck sometimes. And this is in the San Bernardino area. Okay. Let me preface what I'm about to tell you with what's going on in California right now. Okay. So in California, there is a huge issue with the economy. Is just, the United States economy is not good right now. Not good. There's a lot of homelessness right now. People losing their homes. It's happening to all sorts of people all across the board. It doesn't matter what income bracket you're in. A lot of people are losing homes. Some people are put out on the street. The economy is just not good right now. And so the homeless rate has skyrocketed in California over the past, let's say, a couple of years, especially. And the governor of that state put out some orders to get rid of the homeless encampments all over some of the main cities and some of the counties. And that includes a place called, it's near Los Angeles. They have what we call Skid Row. Okay. Skid Row. And I think Brown Dwarf's shop is not too far from Skid Row. He knows, a bunch, you know, they go out there and actually have conversations with a lot of these people. He knows the condition that a lot of these people are in, and he hears a lot of stories. And one of the customers, by the way, the governor had signed a declaration, some kind of bill to clean up the streets. And so I think it was in August last month. It wasn't that long ago. He signed some legislation directing state agencies to clear out encampments of unhoused people throughout the state. It was the most high level, I'm going to say attack. Okay. But a direct government attack on the homeless, basically. And these are people who are already down and out. But you can also understand too, that, you know, the cities were being overrun by people living on the streets too. But they had ruled that they could send in state agencies to go clear these encampments out and to get them out of the main cities. But you can't stay here, but you got to go somewhere. Okay. Like you can't stay here. You got to go. We don't care where you go. You just got to get out of here. Is basically what they were doing. And they were taking in bulldozers and bulldozing the tents and all that stuff, you know, getting the people out of there. Well, where these people were going, you know, they went from thousands of homeless people to a handful, according to what Brown Dwarf told us. and the people were being displaced out into the suburbs, into the rural areas. And he said a lot of those areas are desert, sand. There's not a lot of trees and stuff like that around, but it's like desert, and they're having to set up camps out in the desert, basically, is what he was saying. And there have been reports of women, especially, I think it's women, but a lot of people of those homeless people just kind of going missing, disappearing, and reports of lots of them getting attacked by creatures that weren't human. Okay, creatures that weren't human, that were coming out of something. He kept calling it the wash. I'm not exactly sure what a wash is, because we got creeks and rivers and drainage ditches.
That sounds like a waterhole of sorts, or some kind of a...
Yeah.
But it seems to me like if they are specifically moving people to these areas, like, as you say, the desert area where there's not much food or not much sustenance, that they would then be maybe deliberately bringing food for these creatures, because if that's what's happening, if they've suddenly diminished in numbers literally overnight, and they moving them to an area that they clearly can't survive for very long. I mean, it's showing me that they don't really care much about their survival. So do you think that's a deliberate, I mean, was that ever a question, that they might be providing food for these creatures by providing them homeless people and illegal border crossers?
It could be. I mean, I think that I personally, my opinion is that the government is fully aware that there are these creatures, let's just say, all around the country. According to a whistleblower, now whether you believe him or not, I don't know. A whistleblower, it says that there's not a single dogman or werewolf or anything that is that's not known about by the government. Okay, now I do personally know a person who claims to be contracted and to have contracts with agencies. I'm not going to say government, but with agencies to go eliminate problematic dogmen. And I was told that they are tracked. They know where they are.
Yeah. And, they've probably got a microchip in them. Because this would be project number 001, right? Off you go. And they've probably all got different things that they've put in them to make them act differently. I don't know. You know what these guys do. So now they're all tracking them to see which ones are the bad ones and which ones are listening. Because I'm sure they have to listen, right? It's like putting a shock collar on a dog. You know, bzzzt, if you bark too much, whatever, that's what they do. It's like, yeah, they're assets. Yeah. So they would be tracking them, in my opinion. I don't think these things are, they're definitely some kind of a apparition that's been created in the dungeons of hell, seriously. And they've done so stealing human body, human DNA, killing military guys, creating clones, I'm sure, that they can use. I'm sure they create the clones in their monkey life for this as well. Seriously, it's disgusting. It makes me sick.
Yeah, well, you talked about like shock collars. They actually, I've been told they wear shock vests, and they control them that way. But they keep an eye on them. They know which county they're in. They know which area they're in, which region, and they can watch their migration patterns and where they're going. And at some point, sometimes they have meeting spots where they are called there. It's required that they go, and sometimes they don't show up at these meeting points. And and I've been given remote viewing targets before that the data included meeting points and things like that. So there was an island off of the coast of somewhere in Michigan, like Lake Michigan or somewhere, and I kept picking up that this place was like a meeting point. And this target actually involved a dogman. Okay, a dogman case, but this island was some sort of a meeting point for dogmen, and so all this stuff just like comes together. You know, all these different targets that I've been given, all these eyewitness accounts that we're taking, people that whistleblowers that people send me links to interviews with whistleblowers and stuff. So I mean, it's just, it all makes sense. It all kind of melds together. It all comes together now. And even with my buddy who claims, I mean, he's walked me through the process of what they do when he gets the contract to go out to go hunt these things down. I've actually even been told to be really careful about saying I do dogman hunts and stuff, because I'm actually out in the field. I like to say researching. We're researching because I was told that if a person does unalive one of these assets, your life is ruined and you'll probably disappear. So that's what I was told.
So they're saying, obviously, because they watched and they obviously have their little barcode numbers somewhere because it's their little, and then they go off and they are kind of tracked. It's like when you're working with big cats, they get collars and tracking numbers to see, as you said, their migration patterns, what are they doing, where they're going. So therefore, then if somebody had to unalive one of those things, they would, and if they're being tracked, they would know, for example, who's unalived it, which means that person would have seen it, right? And now potentially go and spread the rumor. So they'll then, oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
They should wow.
Well, I can see the person who told me, and I can't, I can tell you this. I had some, I poked and prodded. Thank you, Dan. What's up, Dan? Dan's awesome. Dan's the man.
Yay, thank you, Dan.
But I did ask a lot of questions or a few questions, and I didn't want to overstep any boundaries. But I asked, what was the process, and it did involve shooting. It involved making sure that they're unalived, and pretty much putting it in a body bag and taking it to a lab. Okay, to a lab.
So, what do they burn them? How do they get rid of it? Because,
they take it to the lab, and from there, their hands are clean of it. So
then they can make more of it. I would imagine.
Probably.
If you want to make more of that, use its DNA, mix it with some more DNA, create a bigger aberration than you did before. It's like, wow. Yeah. I don't think there's anything off limits for these guys. They really live by their own laws and rules. So they don't really care what they do. I mean, this is way against God's laws of nature. The problem with us is if we look at the laws of nature, those are God's natural laws. So if we follow the natural laws of nature, we're cool, right? We go with the flow. And it doesn't mean just lie there and paralyze yourself. It's a very different meaning when you understand the true essence of going with the flow. But of course, nature, humans being humans, and I want to say humans, but often I don't think it is humans, but I do think humans are open to a lot of that influence. Go completely against the laws of nature. And it's like, this is going completely against the laws of nature. It's not even going against the laws, it's breaking the laws of nature in the worst possible way. So, that's what we have to deal with here. And I think that's very interesting. And again, I look at these things, and I know, Jessica, I speak about this a bit. It's like, really, I think it's inevitable that more and more of these creatures are going to be coming into our realm, right? So It's about being prepared. And so when you do see something, because I think it seems like we're going to, it was like a few years ago, no one saw a computer, right?
Right.
And now you're walking around with one in your hand all the time. So, we
have a TV in our palm of our hand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, okay. So I was actually going to mention just one last thing. I don't know how long you want to go today, but I did want to get this in before we go, because the gentleman that Brown Dwarf interviewed, who came into his shop, told him, I've had a really interesting encounter. He said it was pretty terrifying. And this fella, he actually got in the chat live while we were on air, and was commenting as Brown Dwarf and I were talking that night. And he said, he was saying that in Brown Dwarf, actually on his YouTube channel, it's called Brown Dwarf 4200 if you type it in. But Brown Dwarf was on there. He said he interviewed the guy. He doesn't show his face, but he said that he's transitioning, is what Brown Dwarf said. So he was sleeping in his truck, and he said that he was out near one of those washes, one of the washes, and he said that he was hearing something outside, and a creature came up to his truck, and he said it wasn't actually a Dogman. It actually looked like a female. Okay, but it had, I'm trying to, if I can remember, it actually looked more like a pale crawler. Okay, now a pale crawler is something that I've talked about on my channel plenty of times. I actually have eyewitness accounts of that. One of my teammates, Don, has a video of a pale crawler in his yard. Okay, and we did, because so my team did encounter one potentially in the cave when we were at the Skinwalker Cave in Tennessee last year, and they have a video of something poking its head around the back of the cave. But he said it was almost like that, and I think that we need to make the distinction too, though, between Brown Dwarf made it very clear that a lot of the people that are living in some of these camps do have addictions. A lot of like mental illness is going on out there too, with people who have been put out on the streets and live out there. And he said there's even a lot of the people in some of these camps might be living underground. Okay. And because they have a lot of dark, like soot, like chimney soot all over their bodies and stuff. And he said, he's like, but where do you draw the line when it's, it's like humanistic, but it's almost like some people might have become kind of animalistic from living that kind of lifestyle, and being when you do a lot of drugs, you are more susceptible to being possessed by demonic entities. And it starts to kind of mesh together. And it's like, well, where do you draw the line? Because this gentleman who was in his truck said that it looked like a female was at his window, but it was not human. And he says he had a machete in his hand. I'm not exactly sure if he took any action towards this person thing, but it was slobbering and licking his window, and or it had slobber, he said, that was dripping down his window, and it was not, he said it wasn't human. Whatever it wasn't human. It was a grotesque woman with weird teeth, and it was growling and getting fluids and stuff like all over his windows of his truck. So
did he take a DNA sample?
I seriously doubt it. But we hear it. Well, last year in the United States, the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, put out, I don't know if it was last year they put this out, but I covered this last year on my show. They're preparing for the zombie apocalypse here in the US. Yep. And put out, they have a whole program preparing for the zombie apocalypse.
They are the bloody zombie apocalypse. Let's just face facts. I mean, the only zombies are the zombies. They actually are.
Preach it, sister.
Yeah. I mean, really, talk about projection. Right.
That's true.
Yeah. Get your own shit together, for God's sake. Telling us we zombies, you the ones. Wow. Anyway, wow, that's super interesting. Jessica, that was so cool. I mean, I don't know, is there anything else you have to share with us this evening or morning for you?
We can save it all for next time. How about that? Yeah. We've got a lot to talk about, and hopefully Caleb will come back on with me sometime. We can talk about those Cheyenne Dogmen and the dog soldiers and the rituals. I'm really into learning more about the rituals they do, and maybe potentially turning into werewolves as well. But other than that, no. You guys can find me over on my channel, The Cryptid Huntress on YouTube, and go to my website, thecryptidhuntress.com, if you guys would like to learn more about me and find out where I'm going to be. I've got some public events and stuff that are coming up, so it's all there on my website.
Well, Jessica's info's tickering past the bottom there. And you all know she's got a super awesome channel, the Cryptid Huntress, and has really cool guests on there. It's so funny because I seem to catch you oftentimes lately when I'm awake in the middle of the night somewhere.
Okay.
It's either 2 in the morning or 4 in the morning or something like that. Like, yeah, here I am. Thanks,
Oh
guys.
my
It's so
God.
good to see you.
It's so good to always see you in there. I love it. And I
Yeah.
think, man, you're going to be tired tomorrow. Okay.
I'm one of these kids. I swear. I think they say when you're born in the morning, early in the morning, you're a morning person. I was born at like 5 a.m. And for so many years, or 5 past 5, 5 o'clock to wake up is my favorite time. So I'm a morning person, and I can do with very little sleep, I must say. Every now and again, I'll catch up a couple of hours on the weekend, but yeah, I do my thing, wake up, do whatever. Guys, it's been so fun having you in here. Thank you so much for joining us. Jessica, it's always awesome having you. Great conversations. Absolutely thoroughly enjoyed the topics that we talk about and look forward to more. I think I'm going to talk to you about getting some remote viewing targets.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I love coming on your show. We have really great conversations. We do.
Yeah. Yeah, you always with the boys, right? I need you with me sometime as well. Girl talk.
Yeah, right? I do have a lot of men on my channel. I do. I admit it. You know, it's a hard job, but somebody's got to do it.
Damn.
I have women too. Bryce has been on my show. You need to come on my show sometime. I haven't had you on mine yet.
That'd be cool.
You see me.
That'd be cool.
At 3 or 4 in the morning. I'm just kidding.
Yep.
I have a daytime show too. Yeah.
You'll see me in my fluffy pajamas. I'll be in my fluffy pajamas full of all hearts and things.
Pajamas. We'll have a pajama party. I do have a daytime show every Monday and Wednesday. So it would be right now. So whatever time it is where you are, was it 7 or 8 p.m.? So you'll have to come join me on my daytime show.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be lovely. I'd love that. Yeah.
We'll plan on it.
Nice. Okay, everybody. And to our beautiful stories. Wow. The girl in a gong, thank you so much. Really appreciate you. Dan, thank you so much. And of course, my beautiful moderator, Joanne, who looks after this channel like we are gold. And I so appreciate you, Joanne. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. God bless you all. I will see you tomorrow. I hope Jessie's back this week. I think she is. She should be. But if I don't see you with Jessie, I'll see you with Bryce. And in the meantime, have yourselves all a beautiful day. Enjoy morning, noon, evening, wherever you are in this amazing world. Yeah, be cool, be kind. Just be nice. Bye, everybody. Bye, Jessica.
Bye.